All right. We
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the 9x9 Volleyball Show, the 81 square meters of the best volleyball coverage west of the Atlantic Ocean. My name is Rob St. Clair. This is a weird time for the show because I'm in Arizona right now, a very unfamiliar backdrop. But joining me from north of the border is Everett DeLorme. Everett, welcome, my friend. Thanks for being flexible with the show. I may or may not have been on the golf course earlier this evening, so I'm stoked to talk some volley.
Yeah, you were on the golf course and I was in bed because it's getting pretty late here in Toronto. So I may or may not have had a nap before this. I would have much rather been on the golf course in Arizona with you, but hey, that's what it gets.
I
How
don't
was how,
understand. It was
what,
great. I don't understand why everybody doesn't just live in Arizona during the winter. It's incredible.
yeah, I
There's
mean,
even
I
some
get
volleyball going on here too. Imagine that.
yeah, imagine that. I mean, I guess that's why, you know, the majority of the old people in North America flock to Arizona. It's like you're 65 plus, it's just a magnet for them, right?
Oh yeah, I've seen a lot of
Hey,
Canadian license plates already.
oh, I wouldn't doubt it. A lot of Alberta, a lot of BC, maybe some Saskatchewan, some Manitoba sprinkled in there.
Sure.
You know, it's just a quick drive down. But like you said, a lot of volleyball going on. First things first, let's just jump in to the Champions League. Last Friday, we had the drawing of the lots. The top 8 teams had been determined, and now we had to determine what the outcomes were. If you didn't catch it already, I did a podcast over on the Volleyball Source podcast with the one and only Dan Manili of 5-1 VB, really breaking things down. It was about an hour long, so you should go check that out. So
It was
instead,
great. It was so good to see you and Dan in the same room. I was jealous. I wanted to be there hanging out with you guys, and I'm happy to have Dan back in the mix. But yeah, you guys went over it in detail. If anybody wants more depth on the Champions League draw, they can go over and watch that because yeah, you guys did a phenomenal job breaking it down. But I at least want to make our picks on this show because
absolutely.
it's coming up in the first round of quarterfinals. I think is next week or maybe the week after. I'll have to double check that, but it's
Yeah.
pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean you need to get your chops in. You need to say what you got to say. So we got the women up here first. The All Russia battle in match number 1, Kazan against Moscow. Match number 2 is the All Italian battle, Monza taking on Conigliano, which in my opinion is the spiciest matchup. It could be one of the spiciest matchup of the entire playoff round. Next up, we've got one of the favorites, Vakufbank taking on developers Rezhov, and finally Fenerbahce, kind of a dark horse in my opinion, taking on Kaliningrad. First of all, what do you think of the breakdown of the teams? 3 teams from Russia, 2 teams from Italy, 2 Turkish teams, and 1 Polish team on the women's side.
So we talked about it a little last week when we knew who the quarterfinalists were, but not what the matchups were going to be. And the women's tournament didn't get it's not as good of a quarterfinal like field of 8 teams top to bottom as the men's is. I think on the men's side we got the 8 best teams in the round of 8, and on the women's side I don't necessarily agree with that because of all the shenanigans that happened in Novara, them missing out. 3 Russian teams I don't think we really need. That doesn't really represent the breakdown at the top of Europe on the women's side. So that first Russian matchup really doesn't mean anything to me. I think Dinamo Kazan will be the favorite, but that's one we've seen domestically already a couple times this year. And just to make it super clear, these are 2-match series in the quarters and the semis. So you play a home and away. They're about a week apart, and it all comes down to points. So if you win one in 3 or 4, and you win the other, and you lose the other in 5, you advance because of points. So the golden
And
set
and
potential is there.
and I think we have to talk about the golden set real quick because is it not
Yeah,
the best thing in volleyball?
it's
Just
awesome.
one just one 15-point sprint to win it all. Right?
It's
It's
awesome.
a much better overtime format than the NFL. Let's just put it right out
Oh,
there,
that's not even
right
close.
off the bat. But yeah, I just remembered as you were talking about it. It's like, oh damn, it's golden set season.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah, it's golden set season.
we get that in the CEV Cup because it's those 2-game playoffs all the way through. But man, just Champions League golden set, there's just something else. It's nothing else like a good old golden set in Champions League.
Yeah, we've seen some great ones. Last year, Zaxa over Lube comes to mind. That golden set was an all-timer. Yeah, so
Nasty.
the trade-off that you get is you can get golden sets, which are just the best, but also you can get situations where once you take 2 sets, the series is over. Then the rest of that second match sometimes doesn't matter. That happens, and it ends up being kind of anticlimactic. Like I know last year CEV Cup finals that happened where Dynamo Moscow they knew they just needed to take 2 sets and they were going to win the tournament. Mm-hmm. And then they won the tournament, and then there was still some more volleyball to be played after that. That sometimes
boring.
Yeah, that's kind of lame, but the trade-off for that is that sometimes you get golden sets. So that's the format for Champions League, quarterfinals and semifinals. Now, the finals are very different. That is one match, one do-or-die match in a neutral site, and that's it. But the home and away format in the quarters lends itself to golden set potential, so that's always cool.
Yeah.
I agree with what you and Dan said when you were breaking down the women's draw. At the top of the bracket there, because like if you extend that, the 4 on your screen out to the right, that would be the semifinal matchups. So the winner of the all-Italian game will play the winner of the all-Russian game. And then the winner of Vakif Bank Rzeszów, which will be Vakif Bank, spoiler alert. And again, we'll play the winner. Yeah. Are you serious?
No, I was joking.
Good. So the all-Russian battle will play the winner of the all-Italian battle. And I think that whoever wins between Monza and Conegliano will mop the floor with whichever Russian opponent they play in the semis and go pretty much straight to the finals at that point. The other side of the bracket, like I think both Vakif Bank and Fenerbahce are significantly better than their opponents, and I think they're going to face off in an all-Turkish semifinal, which will be extremely hyped. So there's really the Monza Conegliano matchup, that 2-match series is clearly the one that jumps off the page in the quarters. We talked about it a couple weeks ago because Monza beat them in 4 back in Italy, but they're going to play 2 matches against one another. And I love the point that Dan made is that you can expect to see a different Conegliano team now that it's do or die time in the quarterfinals. They've been sleepwalking a little bit. They haven't looked nearly as good this year, like not as dominant as they were. You guys covered it all really well on the show the other day, and I expect them to flip a little bit of a switch. But at the same time, Everett, I'm kind of with you, where especially if they get Jordan Larson up to usable form by the time that, at least like by the second match of that series, which I don't see why not, that really adds another crazy dimension. And Dana Retke was just starting to come into her own the last time they played, and she was unbelievable match.
I really just think Monza's coming with all the momentum here.
I think they are too.
Right? They've won important games recently, and I think I don't want to say they're kind of like a Zaxa like last year, but to me that like it feels like they could have that kind of momentum that nothing, no matter what's in front of them, that they could kind of figure something out. So I'm really excited for it. I think no matter what, the games are going to be some bangers. My only worry with Conegliano, I do agree with you that they're going to be able to turn it on, but I don't necessarily see where they can. Like they're kind of struggling right now. Like even in the games that they win, they're kind of struggling. Right, they're really struggling to find that secondary scoring. And I'm not sure. Like, is Catherine Plummer gonna just step up to the plate all of a sudden? And even if they do figure out those things, are the wheels going to get moving fast enough to be able to run with a Monza team that's running at full force? And if you add, Jordan Larson into that, we're going to have to see how long it takes her to get into the mix of things. But man, that's a deadly potential for that first quarterfinal matchup.
I agree, and that's a great point. Is how much freedom does Conegliano have to, like, how much time can they be allowed to snap back into their championship form? And with the 2-match series, the answer is a decent amount, because if you get just blasted in the first match of one of these 2-match series, you still are very much alive. All you have to do is like get 3 points in the next match and win a golden set. So even if they come out, if any team in any of these quarterfinals, men's or women's, if any team comes out and lays an egg in the first match, it's not even close to over. It's like what Modena did against Tours in the CV Cup. They just had to come back, win a match, and then win a golden set. So it's never over after the first match. So that will be a big tone setter for what that second match, Monza Caneliano, regardless of the result of the first one, will be unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then just everywhere else past that, like I don't really know how to pick Kazan versus Moscow. Honestly, I don't really care that much. I would like to go.
I would go with Kazan for sure. I mean, Kazan's leading the league in Russia. Moscow's
Yeah,
sitting in fourth right now. Kazan like comfortably won their pool, whereas Moscow.
yeah.
Yeah,
There was some shenanigans happening in that pool for sure. Now to Moscow's credit, that match that they beat Novara in Italy, they looked like a really, really good team. But I think Kazan has more talent. I think Samantha Bricio is awesome. I think Samantha Fabrice is awesome.
yeah.
Whatever. But regardless, I don't really think that the winner of that matters that much because whoever wins between Monza and Caneliano, I think beats whichever Dinamo team it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So and then
whoever wins that Monza Canigliano match is going to the
finals. I agree.
And it's going to be, I mean, the obviously advantage Vakufbank, but you can't say that Fenerbahce doesn't have a shot. We'll see what Federatseva is able to do in that one. But now, I just think the atmosphere of that one is going to be unreal. We're talking about against like a home and home of two legendary sport clubs, like two legendary women's volleyball clubs,
crosstown rivals,
rivals. It's a derby match in a semifinal of the Champions League. Like, what could be better? We know the Turkish fans put on a show. We know it's going to be loud. We like it's going to be hype. I'm excited for that one, and I expect both teams to come to play.
I agree, and I think it's as much as I don't love the top to bottom depth of the women's draw, it does help us to really spotlight one series at a time because that first one is clearly Monza Caneliano is what everybody's going to be watching and talking about, and then in the semis, it's clearly going to be Istanbul or like Vakufbank versus Fenerbahce that everybody's going to be watching and talking about, which is kind of cool because there's a lot of volleyball to watch, and there are some that clearly rise to the top in terms of everybody's priority list. So those will be fun. Yeah, Vakufbank will beat Zhezhov, no problem. I think Fenerbahce will beat Kaliningrad, no problem. You were higher on Kaliningrad than Dan was. I'm in the middle of both you guys. I think Fenerbahce is way better than Kaliningrad, but I will not sit here and tell you that Arina Fedorovtseva is the top 5 player in the world just yet, like what Dan did. That was a bit too spicy for me at this point. But they're tremendous. If they get a top form looking Melissa Vargas, they can beat anybody in the world. So yeah, that I think both Turkish teams are going to win their quarterfinals easily. I'll go with Dinamo Kazan in that first quarterfinal, and then that just leaves the second one. Ooh, man. I know you like Monza, and it's difficult to disagree with that because they're super duper hot, but I think that I might have to still go with Conegliano because they have 2 matches to play with. They've been there before, and I expect them to turn it on and figure it out. I do think that they'll flip a switch, and like after those first couple matches, I bet that we'll be back on this show talking about like, oh, this is the Conegliano that we've been expecting all year. That wouldn't surprise me at all. So that's what I'm going to pick. And then, I mean, Conegliano will sleepwalk to the finals after that. Then I'm with Dan. I think it's shaping up for Conegliano Vakufbank finals. I really do.
I'm gonna just be the outlier here. I'm gonna call Monza Vakufbank finals, which I think, to be honest, is a little more anticlimactic.
They already played twice in pools, and it was convincing.
Yeah, they already played twice in pools. I mean, albeit, like, let's be honest, it was Dana Redke's first match. They didn't have Jordan Larson yet, right? So it's a much different Monza team than when we saw when they played Vakufbank. But just with everything that's been built up from Vakufbank Canigliano over the years, the fact that their opposites are switching teams to next year, it just sets everything up that like the whole idea that like Agonu and Hawk are going to be facing off on one side of the net in like a consecutive Champions League final. And after going to the Club World Championship final, and then the very next year, everyone knows that they're going to be switching. It's just going to be a weird dynamic, and it's going to be awkward. And it's what dreams are made of.
Yeah, I love it.
If you're a media person,
for sure. I bet everybody at the CEV when those 2 teams were drawn on opposite sides of the bracket, they were just like, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got an opportunity for one of the great storylines in recent volleyball history. So that I kind of hope it happens, which is part of why I'm going to pick Conegliano in the quarterfinals, because I think that the volleyball world deserves another Conegliano Vakufbank match on this stage, and that's what I want to see as a fan and as a media member. So that's what I'm going to pick.
Fair enough. Let's jump to the men's side of the bracket now. This one,
Now this is just chock full of bangers. Oh my goodness, it's amazing. It's so good. It's
Picasso,
so
I
much
like it.
better top to bottom. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be a banger. Uh, all the way through. I think the only one kind of that's not going to be so great there is Lube against Yastrebji Weigel. I don't think JW is going to be able to stand up to Lube, especially with some news that we're going to be talking about later, as well with some players returning from injuries. But man, I think it doesn't have. There's no gravitas matchup like we had. Have with Monza and Canigliano on the women's side, but just solid matchups all the way through. We got
Yeah, they're
ZSP
all
taking on
going to be awesome.
ZSP taking on Perugia, Trentino taking on Berlin, which I think could be a bit of an interesting matchup.
I agree.
The aforementioned Lube taking on JW, and then finally to close it out, hands down, in my opinion, the best matchup in the quarterfinal round, the defending champs Zaksa Kazezna Kozle taking on Dynamo Moscow, the CEV Cup champs from last year. So a lot on the line in that one, and I think that one is especially a spicy matchup. Where do you want to start? What are your picks here, Rob?
Yeah, there are just some bangers all the way around. Starting with that first quarterfinal, the only question is ZSP healthy? Can Victor Poletayev play? Like, is Igor Kobzar going to play? Like, I commentated that game last week, the first of the 2-match series between Berlin and ZSP. That like ZSP's starting lineup was Kolodinsky setting, Pudra Binkin opposite. Like Tina Ernau didn't play. Like they're just a broken mess as a team right now. They just cannot figure out how to get their full lineup on the court consistently. And if they can't do that, they have no chance against Perugia. No way. There is nothing that Igor Kliuka can do to outscore and outpace the combination of Matt Anderson, Wilfredo Leon, Camille Rikliski, the whole thing. Without Poletayev and some balance in that ZSP offense, Perugia is better at every single position except like except definitely one of the middles. Yakovlev's better than any middle in either of those two teams, but and Grebenikov, but like point scorers, there's nothing that ZSP will be able to do unless they have a full lineup. In that case, the matchup gets really interesting, but I just don't have faith in any of those guys to play. Like if they had a do or die series against Berlin, they lost 2 matches in 5, and they could Poletayev didn't see the floor once. Kobzar came in as a service sub and served like 5 out of 6 balls or so out of bounds, like, which was kind of embarrassing. I don't know.
Kobzar did play this weekend. He came off the bench for sets 3-5 against in their 5-set loss to Novosibirsk. And I mean, that
was a good match. But why is Igor Kobzar coming off the bench? Like that's a bigger problem right there. If Samelvolo, who's been like really the only reason for the career that Kobzar has had, is putting him on the national team when he didn't necessarily deserve to be there. If even Samelvolo is losing faith in him,
that's a take.
I'm not high on Igor Kobzar. I don't think he's good at all. So the fact,
we both of us here are big Pavel Pankov stands. We know that, right? But
and we'll talk about him in a second. But that first matchup, my only take is that unless ZSP is fully healthy, it's 2-3 for Perugia.
Yeah. I mean, right now there's no Poletayev and no Earnout on the floor for them, so it really just doesn't match up. You got Kobzar coming off the bench, Kliko put down. What is it? 15 points in this past match. Prodr Brinkin had 23 against Novosibirsk. So yeah, I don't know. I really don't see if all their guys are there. Like if you've got Poletayev swinging at full force and Tini Ernst, then this is a really interesting matchup.
Yeah, it changes everything. Because I don't expect to see that.
No, not at all. The matchup number 2, Trentino. And so sorry, we'll go back. You're picking Perugia, yeah?
Oh yeah.
Make the check. All right. Matchup number 2, Berlin, who kind of surprised everyone by taking down ZSP at home in St. Petersburg, taking on Trentino. Now, I feel that Trentino has kind of been losing a little bit of momentum recently.
They have.
And I don't know, kind of this is a matchup that I don't know. I have a gut feeling that something could happen. I could be wrong, but I have a gut feeling that something could happen here.
This has golden set potential, to be honest. I think home crowds on either side could play a big factor. Like I know you and Dan were talking about the Berlin home crowd, which is a big deal. I don't know. It comes down to which Ben Patch are we going to see, in my opinion. And against ZSP, he was awesome.
Yeah,
he was awesome in both matches.
All world,
so good. And I mean, they had little bits of heroism from different players in different moments in those ZSP matches, like down 20-15 in the fourth, and Ruben Schott goes on an 8-point service run with 3 aces. Like that's crazy. Like Ben Patchett, huge moments in the fifth, like ripping out of system balls against 3 blockers and putting them away. Like he was super clutch. Grankin was unbelievable. Timothy Carl at times was the best player on the floor. Like they caught fire. A lot of different, like, right place, right time. A lot of magic happened for Berlin in that 2-match series against ZSP, and there's nothing stopping them from doing that again. I think Trentino's the better team, top to bottom. They have advantages just about everywhere. Whoever's hitting against Grankin as a blocker is going to have a field day. Now Trentino played today.
That match of Grankin versus Michele, that's a nasty mismatch
Nightmare.
over on the left side of the court there for who are we talking about? Berlin. And yeah, that's going to be a disgusting match there.
Nightmare matchup. Now, like, Trentino played today. They beat Padova. Daniele Lavia didn't even play. He's not injured. They just gave him a rest, so no worries there. Julian Zenger for Trentino against his former team. That's kind of cool. I think it's going to take a little more magic for Berlin to pull this off. It's not impossible, but I think they have the potential to get trapped in a couple really, really bad, like, match-losing rotations at different moments. And there's so many, like, 50-50s that have to go Berlin's way for them to have a chance against a team that's built the way Trentino is. And if they don't get the lucky break in a couple of those matchups, they're just going to lose. Whereas, like, Trentino, the only way that they do lose is if they get all the bad luck and all the things go Berlin's way. So it's easy to lean towards Trentino here.
I feel like Berlin is just that type of team.
They have
the Ruben Schatz and the Ben Patches and the Timothy Carls, who are all have the ability to just kind of pop off. And when you've got Papa Grankin just stirring the pot up there, and
I love watching Grandpa Grankins play so much.
Grandpa Grankin is almost better than Prime Grankin. Like, he's just like, he doesn't have just like the weight of all of Russia on him, and he's just like it's almost like he's like skipping like happily through the streets of Berlin, like just like playing his twilight years. He's kind of like Yarmer Yager out here, just never gets old and is never gonna leave the court. But he just brings so much leadership to this squad, and I feel like, all you need to do is take one and win a golden set, or all you need to do is take one and bring another one to 5, right? So it's
not impossible. It's among the better draws that Berlin could have gotten. Now, like, they could have gotten ZSP again. They obviously could have won that. They would not have done well against Zaxa, and they would not have done well against Lube. So I think this is the second best draw they could have gotten. I still am going to lean towards Trentino because I just don't. I think that this Berlin team, the way they're constructed, has a ceiling, and that ceiling is the quarterfinals of Champions League. It's basically the point that they get to just about every year, except, what was it, like 2015? They got third, maybe, but like, really, it's the ceiling for a Bundesliga team is to get to the quarterfinals of Champions League, put on a good performance, and past that, the game just gets a little bit too big. So Trentino's my pick here, but I wouldn't be that surprised to see some wacky stuff go on in that series.
You're not wrong. I almost think we should just jump over the next series because we all know what's going to happen in that one.
I want to touch on it really quickly. Does Stefan Boyer even have a chance to play? Because if not, then we're glossing over this series, because God knows we're not talking about his backup. A former Lube man himself could not sniff the court on that team either. But without Boyer, JW has absolutely no chance. None.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, JW they've got Tony Uti. He won the championship last year, but they just don't have the guys around.
Completely different story
to make it happen. I mean,
JW's middles are going to get feasted on by Robert Landy Simone. That would be a mismatch of all mismatches.
Both Simone and Inzani are rocking over a 60% efficiency in the middle for Lube, and that's on a
Inzani's
team.
Underrated, man.
Well, Inzani is super underrated, especially in that Lube system. We're going to talk about them a little bit later when we talk about Italy. But yeah, like, it's definitely underrated. I mean, I really truly think we're almost slated to see another Lube Perugia finals in the matchup. I don't know if anyone's going to be able to run with them. Because if Zenit Kazan was here, it might be a bit of a different story. But poor play last year has them in the CEV Cup. So yeah. But that being said, in this last quarterfinal here, I think this one could be the spiciest form or last year's Champions League champions against last year's CEV Cup champions. What do you think, Rob? What's your take here?
This is by far the matchup I'm most excited to watch because I don't know how to pick it. It's such like diametrically opposed play styles. They couldn't be constructed more differently. But we saw Zaxa do it last year. They got a similar draw to this where they had Lube, then Zenit Kazan. Now they're going to have Dynamo Moscow, then probably Lube if they survive. It kind of actually remarkably similar. Zaxa pulled it off last year, but this particular Zaxa team, like we've talked about a few times on the show, just doesn't have that magic that last year's team did. They you guys covered it really well the other day on the show with Dan. Losing Jakub Kokanovsky, big difference. Huge. Losing Benjamin Toniuti, big difference. And it's just not the same magic
that Zatorsky too. Right, it's like you've got those three guys there.
Zatorsky is a better libero than Eric Shoji in my opinion, but that drop off is not as severe as Toniuti to Janusz, and then
I think I would argue that it's more so leadership wise, right? Like Zatorsky is like the Polish national team libero.
That's not Zaxa's weakness, though. This
but I think team... but I think that maybe that is right. That there is no real leader on this team. Whereas like last year, you had two strong leaders in Toniuti and Zatorsky, two guys who have been there, who have been around, who have won big matches. And now, like when you've got Janusz up there, and obviously it's not that Eric Shoji is, but you're talking about a foreigner who's coming in who doesn't speak the language, who hasn't been with that team for a long time, the way that Zatorsky had. He was ingrained in that club. He was ingrained within that team. And obviously, Shoji's one of the best liberos in the world, but he just doesn't bring that other level that Zatorsky brought in my eyes anyways.
That's far from the thing at the top of the list that is different this year for Zaxa for me. Mine's all on-court related. I think that stuff is valid, but doesn't make nearly as much of a difference as the literal on-court play style of Janusz and Huber versus Toniuti and Kuba from last year. You guys talked about it. The speed of the offense, the quickness with which Kuba is available offensively changed everything for that offense, and the tempo that Toniuti was able to deliver everywhere, especially to the BIC, which we talked about when Lube when Lube beat Zaxa the first time in Champions League. That offense isn't what it was last year, and they don't. Terminating on high balls at 50% efficiency is not the way that team is built. That's not their blueprint for success. Their blueprint for success is to be unbelievably smart in all three contacts worth of ball control, better the ball, recycle off the block, and then score when you can. And that starts with a ridiculously fast middle presence, which they just don't have anymore, and a setter that can truly orchestrate a game of that style, which there are very few to have ever played the game. So it's on court stuff for me that's different for Zaxa this year. Now they're still the best team in Poland by a mile, but against a Russian team, their out of system ability and the smart, the intelligence, the recycling off the block, all that stuff that we fell in love with Zaxa's game last year is going to get put to the test in a big way against Dynamo Moscow.
I just don't know if they're going to be able to handle Tsetsan Sokolov, right? I think Kazmarek, like it's going to come down and like with. You've got Slivka and Semeniuk on the left side over there. And I think that they've done well with them in the past. But once again, like it brings down, you don't have Kuba who's going to be able to close those blocks. I just think that they don't have many more cracks, but it's enough for a good team like Dynamo Moscow to be able to use those and get through them. And so I think it could be, this one's really a toss-up for me. Because you've got a really physical Moscow team. And I mean, hey, all they need to do is go on a few big serving runs.
That's exactly what I was just about to say. Yeah. If you get Dynamo Moscow on a few
moments.
Right. If you get Dynamo Moscow on a great serving day, it's 2-3-0s. That's it. That Zaxa ability to survive. If Moscow has a great serving day, that's super fragile. I think that breaks apart really quick. Like Pavel Penkov's one of the best servers in the world, period, not just setters. Sokolov, tremendous. Whichever of their outsides play are above average. And then like Vlasov is a good mix-up, and Likoshestov is a pretty good mix-up. So they're nasty from the service line, and they're just giant in every position. They're a classic Russian team. And then Kerminin's really good. So they scoring against them, especially if you can't make Janusz's life really easy running the offense, is not going to be easy. And it's just not built the way for me this year as it was last year that they were able to have success against teams like that. I think it's a little too fragile to pick them in a 2-match series against a team that's as physical as Moscow. So this has golden set potential for sure. I don't want to talk down on Zaksa too much because they're still tremendous, and a lot of their pieces have been there before, and they did it last year. But I'm leaning towards Dynamo Moscow here in just pure physical domination, and they have less like exploitable weaknesses than Zaksa does.
I mean, I think we saw it in game 1 of Zaksa versus Lube. That Lube was just all over Zaksa's offense. They were clamping down on their blocks nonstop.
And again, that margin was super thin. It was 15-13 in the fifth, but like Lube looked to be the better team in most of the games, especially in the games that they won. And
yeah, I mean, especially like that first game they dominated, right? So it's like I could see Moscow just clamping down on them for, you know, 2 matches straight and moving on just like that. But then they got to face Lube in the next round, and I don't know how that's going to go. Lube's looking awesome. real good right now.
All right, so what are your picks? We can run down really quick and move on.
I'm going Perugia, Trentino, Lube, Dynamo Moscow.
Okay, I'm going. Man, I think I might go exactly the same. Yeah, Perugia for sure. I'm leaning towards Trentino, Lube for sure, and then I'm leaning towards Dynamo Moscow. But I think that Dynamo Moscow beats Lube in that semi if they play. I also think. Oh yeah.
You think Dynamo Moscow beats Lube?
I do. I do think that's something I want to pick.
How? Where?
We saw it last year. Lube choked and got upset super early by Zaksa.
Yeah, but that was a much different Zaksa team. That was on a quest from Polish Jesus. You know, like they were on a quest last year. No one was going to beat them. Like 2 legendary golden sets to get to an epic final against Trentino. Like no way. Like that Zaksa team and this Dynamo Moscow. Like last year's Dynamo Moscow team, yes, but they just don't have the same magic that they did last year. Like that's a battle of 2 teams. Pop. Dynamo Moscow taking Lube in this semi.
That's my pick.
Silly.
That's my pick. And I mean, everybody last year was shooing Lube into the finals last year, and that certainly didn't happen. Champions League's wild, man. Crazy stuff happens. I wouldn't even be that surprised to see Berlin beat Trentino, and honestly, I would kind of like to see it because Perugia and Trentino have already played each other like 15 times this year, so I don't need to see that again. Perugia Berlin would be fun. It would be a beatdown. I think Perugia is by far the best of the 4 teams in their side of the bracket. They're going to the finals, no problem. But I would like Perugia Lube in a 1-match do or die for Champions League would be electric. I think Perugia Dynamo Moscow is what we're going to see, and I'm excited for it. I think that's going to be. It's very possible. It's going to be dope, and I think Perugia wins the Champions League. I don't think that think that anybody. Well, especially not in a 2-match series. They're definitely going to the finals. I have no doubt about that. But even in just 1 match, I just don't see anybody slowing Wilfredo Leon down for long enough to beat him in a match.
No, not even. And especially that when you got the roster that they have around him. We've talked about it so many times, but it just doesn't get old with Anderson and Rich Licky. Rich Licky is he's been playing so good right now. But you know what? Going back to that Dynamo Moscow, I think I'm with Ronnie in the chat who's wondering if you're doing painkillers right now, and that's why you're a little delusional, because I don't think there's any chance for Moscow to take down Lube. And hey, I might be eating my words, but
there are people on this show and in this chat and in this Discord network that we have that have been prone to a little bit of homerism from time to time, and that might be what's happening here. I just want to put it out there.
I mean, you're not wrong. He does go to raves with Robert Melandi Simon.
Of course he does. Yeah, a great podcast, by the way. If you want to know more about the mythical Ronnie Cuban Spike, he ever did 2 hours with him here on the channel. It was incredible. I loved it. So speaking of
him, but anyway, sorry. Continue. Yes.
So speaking of Lube and their potential match against Dinamo Moscow or whoever in the quarterfinals when they force Jan Hadrava into negative 1,000 efficiency, which is absolutely what's going to happen in those two matches. The question for Lube is, will this man be ready to play? And some recent signs are that Osmani Juantorena has been working hard and positively towards a comeback, and it sounds like there is a date set for said comeback of March 5th against Modena. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what we're hearing right now, according to Piscini, which is, by the way, like the Woj of the volleyball world, especially of the Italian volleyball world. So this is from today's training. I screenshotted this today. So Osmani's out there. He's looking pretty good. He's got that swing back. He's hitting high. He's hitting hard. And not to mention, a March 5th date with Modena is kind of the perfect time to potentially come back. Just jump right into it against one of the best teams in the league. A
It would be
classic rivalry.
Just the right time.
You've got like so many. You've got Bruno there. You've got Engapeth. You know that there's going to be some talking, and we'll see. But like my question is if he's going to be on the roster, but is he going to be on the floor, right? Does Lube make that switch right away and go away from Marlon Yant? Because Marlon Yant has not been doing a bad job at all. And I think that he has kind of earned his spot on the team. He's got 144 points on the season. He's third in team scoring. Real quick, though, Lube, a very interesting team. Rock Mozic right now leading the league with 402 points. Not one Lube player has over 200.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's because their best player is a middle, and then they've had a revolving door at opposite. They've had 3 outside hitters, and
they're also just they've got 6 players with over 100 points.
Yeah,
6 players with over 100 points. 199 for Lucarelli, 197 for Simon, with Anzania all the way down to the bottom with 109. So they're just so deadly everywhere. We got Marlon Yant. He's got 144 points this year. He's been doing not bad. He's got a 50% efficiency attacking wise. Like, do you go back to him right away, or do you start slowly bringing Juantorena in? And like, is this going to be a situation like Poland had in the summertime at the Olympics, where like, what happens if Juantorena isn't up, isn't putting the numbers on that Marlon Yant is? Are they going to go back to Yant? Like, are we going to be seeing that Cuban trade-off here?
Very interesting coaching question for sure. I don't really know the answer. That's for Blangini to figure out. You would have to really see something from Juantorena in practice to make you incredibly confident that he can jump into a game of the caliber of Lube versus Modena, which is a big deal. I would really have to see something pretty special from him in practice to be willing to put him into a match like that. I don't think it's going to happen that quickly. I think you maybe bring him off the bench if Yant or Lucarelli can't pass the ball, and that is very possible in a matchup against Modena. If they're having a good serving day, you're going to need everything you can get in terms of first contact. So I think that would be the role where we would see him. I doubt he starts. I would really, really highly doubt it. That would be just jumping into the deep end and too extreme of a way for a guy at that age coming off of this injury. I just don't see it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree, but it's going to be interesting now that Lube is starting to get healthy of what that team is looking back. Like, it's interesting looking at these stats here. Ivan Zaitsev is also in that 100-point club with 106 points, except he's only played in 7 matches, right? Everyone else has played 17 to 18, and Zaitsev's already over 100 points this year in 7 matches. Like, he's starting to get his form back, and if Juantorena is getting their form back, like, we could have a few. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. You're coming way out of left field if you think that Dinamo Moscow is in the same ballpark of this team, let alone has the ability to beat them.
There's an upset in Champions League every year without fail. That's my pick. And that I mean, we already talked about it. Yeah, the Juantorena question is a very interesting one. I'm just excited to see him back. It's been way too long. He was out for just way too long and way longer than anybody expected. And obviously, Yant and Lucarelli have done a great job holding down the fort in his absence, but he's their guy. He's their heart and soul. He's been they don't accomplish any of their goals as a team this year, CEV or Italy, without him on the floor. Like, there's no way they can beat Perugia without him. There's no way they can win the Champions League without him, in my opinion. So I'm just excited to see him back.
Yeah, it should be good. A couple of other interesting results this weekend from Italy on the men's side. Now, I'm just going to preface this by saying the bottom of the Super League has become absolutely nuts.
It's nuts.
13 points separates fifth place from 12th. So 13 points separates you're playing CEV next year to you're getting regulated and playing in A2. Toronto took down Piacenza 3-0 this weekend. Huge upset. Stefani comes out huge in that one with 22 points.
Finally,
and then
Vibo starting. Finally,
Vibo Valencia coming through with a 3-0 banger against Monza. Hate to say it, Yuji Nishida putting up some good numbers in it.
He was good. He was really good.
He was good, but even better, Flavio out there, 17 points. He was like a 60% efficiency, just proving that he was hands down the best signing for Vibo this year.
Been saying all year he's the best player on Vibo by far.
Yeah. And things are just gotten so spicy all of a sudden in the Super League. As we said, 13 points from 5th to 12th. It's nuts out there.
That is truly crazy. And even more crazy is 2 points between 8th and 12th. There are 2 points separating a playoff team from a relegation team. That is going to change so many times over the next, couple weeks. Let's see. The teams have played 20 matches. Pado's played 21. Toronto's played 21. Monza's played 22. You only played 24 matches. That's it. We are getting very, very close to the end of the Super League regular season. 24 matches.
Holy
and that's
crap.
It.
Wow. I didn't realize that at all.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's 13 teams in the league. You play 12 teams twice each. That's 24 matches only. That's it. And so there's still teams trying to catch up on some things. And Raven is obviously getting relegated, but there's going to be another team that gets relegated that doesn't necessarily deserve to get relegated. And the race for who that's going to be is going to be insane. And then, yeah, you're right that now Verona's not going to make up, 13 points to catch Milano at 5th. Like, that's not going to happen. But to make the playoffs, not at all out of the question. They're only 2 points back. So every single match in Italy the next 2 or 3 weeks is going to be unbelievable. Then they'll take a little bit of a break for the semis and the finals of the Italian Cup in like 2 weeks. But yeah, some of these teams like Monza only has 2 matches left in the season.
Mm-hmm. The most they can finish with is 2 games over 500.
Right.
I'm looking at that right now and wondering, are they even going to make the playoffs? Right?
Monza's going to make the playoffs. 31 points is going to make the playoffs.
Okay, yeah, they are sitting at 31 points, only 3 points behind Milano. But I mean, Milano's got those 2 points a game, so I don't see them jumping up right now. They're looking at a showdown against Trentino, but man.
Yeah, and Lube's got a bit of a COVID situation right now. They've got some things postponed. I mean, coming up next, Perugia Piacenza tomorrow. That's a banger. Now Piacenza's been hopeless lately. That you can't lose 3-0 to Toronto if you have a roster of that caliber. But
no,
who does Monza have next? Monza's got a pretty significant break, but one of their remaining games is Perugia. That's an L. And then Verona, and you've got to win that game. But Verona might be desperate at that point. So I still think Monza makes the playoffs. Those are not easy games.
With the way Monza's been playing this season and the potential,
super up and
down. You've got the Rock out there who's going to be hungry to make his first SuperLega playoffs. Like, man, I don't know. I think things could get really spicy for Monza here, and that would be a loss of a season completely. If you bring in Gregor Grozer, the season that Dazranak has had. I mean, they've already started to make moves for next season. They're bringing Capichopa, the setter from Santa Cruz.
Yeah, I like that move. That's an upgrade over Orduna for sure.
I absolutely like that move too, and it makes me take Monza a little bit more seriously heading into next season, because I think part of the reason that they're struggling so much 11-11 with the roster that they have is due to Orduna. I just don't think he's the quality, upper tier quality anymore. So, but for this season, man, it's going to be that race for the playoffs. That these next few weeks for SuperLega are going to be unreal, and I don't even know if I want to pay attention to Lube and Perugia.
Yeah, so like Perugia and Lube, they've got a lot going on. Perugia's got Champions League and Coppa Italia. Lube does not, because they choked and blew it to Milano. However, those two teams play each other on March 2nd, so very soon. Yeah, so like this weekend, you've got a bunch of matches, some that will be pretty significant. Now, just to put a couple on your radar, as things will definitely move. Vibo plays Perugia this weekend. That's an L. Piacenza plays Trentino this weekend. That's probably an L. Toronto plays Lube this weekend. That's an L for sure. Verona plays Ravenna. That's probably a W for Verona. Cisterna plays Modena. That's probably an L for Cisterna. So there's going to be
we've got a very top of the table versus bottom of the table weekend, which kind of sucks because it doesn't fuel into any of this drama. Right?
Well, like it does, because there's going to be a completely new team in 12th next week that looks like they're going to get relegated. It's going to be ridiculous because like Padova Milano, I expect it to be the most competitive game this weekend, and Milano's pretty clearly better than Padova is, unless like Padova catches fire, which they have done this year, so maybe that's interesting. But like Verona's going to win and get themselves out of relegation spot. Cisterna's probably going to lose. Vibo's going to lose. Piacenza's probably going to lose, and Toronto's going to lose. So like that's who knows what it's going to look like this time next week. And then same thing a couple weeks later, like the second to last game is the weekend of March 12th and 13th. Everybody plays their 23rd game. And then the following weekend, 6 games, all on Sunday, March 20th. Everybody plays their 24th game, and that's it. So if nothing gets moved around, there's going to be like an NFL red zone style of volleyball with 6 matches at the same time, all with like so much to be determined, and it's going to be ridiculous.
Imagine if we had a proper broadcast for all of this and we could like jump in between. Imagine like you and I in a studio and be like, oh, we're going to jump over to Toronto and Lube just
that
after
would be
this serve from Piacenza against Modena. Like, come on, wouldn't that be great to join the 21st century?
Well,
real quick though, I do want to ask you. We jumped on a little bit further, but heading back to the Piacenza versus Toronto game, there was a Aaron Russell sighting.
Indeed.
In this one, he started the match 9 points on 21 attempts, 43% hitting, not so great efficiency. There's rumors of him going to signing with Scraw next year potentially. Do you think that's a good move for him?
I want him to go somewhere where he can play every single point of the season.
I mean, that's Scraw. Right, because exactly. Like it's in Poland they don't stack up on foreigners like they do in Italy.
Exactly.
Like they get their foreigners and they ride them, right? So I think that Straw's looking out there. They're trying to replace their Taylor Sander. Maybe that might affect some contract negotiations. I guess we'll see. But I think that's a great move for Aaron Russell. Get out of
whatever it takes. Get away from Bernardi for sure. That guy just has a thing against Aaron Russell clearly. But like wherever you can go in a top level league where you can play every single point of the entire season and never have there be a question about him getting benched, that's where I want to see him go, and I think Scraw fits that.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Should be interesting. Sorry for cutting you off. We can get back to what we were talking about.
That's okay. That's really about it for Italy. There's Italian Cup, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. We'll talk about that on next week's show. But the drama is off the charts. You've obviously got the top 4 who have distanced themselves from the rest of the pack. But while I don't think that Milano and Monza can or will miss the playoffs at this point, like Piacenza can easily miss the playoffs if they lay another couple eggs, which is not impossible. They've got a couple matches to catch up on, sure, but like Toronto playoff position right now, I don't know if I see them making the playoffs. Padova one like tied with Verona for relegation spot. Like I don't think they're going to get relegated. I have no idea how to predict this. It's going to be wild. Somebody's going to make the playoffs in 8th, and somebody's going to get relegated in 12th, and all of those spots in between are total coin flips. It's nuts.
It's so crazy to me, too, how if you're looking at the bottom of the table with Verona and Padova, they both have 8 wins as opposed to Cisterna, Vibo, and Toronto, who only have 7 wins ahead of them.
It's because every time those teams win, they always win in 5. Padova and Verona, it's a huge problem up there. They just screw around in matches and they win in 5 all the time. And points, by the way, points come before matches won in Italy. Points are the first tiebreaker.
Yes.
So in that case, why is Padova ahead of Verona? Their match win loss is worse.
You have more.
The same number of points. Their match win loss is worse. Yeah, maybe that's not up to date or correct. I think the Padova right now should be in relegation.
It's not match point loss. It's the The parity of points with more won matches.
Well, they have the same number of matches won. I guess
And then it's the next is if
set
parity
ratio.
persists, the best set quotient,
Oh,
set
okay, yeah,
quotient is used.
yeah. Padava's set ratio is better. That's how tight we're talking about. The bottom standings are nuts.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, the thing is too is that each of these teams have had flashes of brilliance and flashes
Right.
of shittiness throughout
Yeah,
the season, right?
flashes of thanks for participating. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go
that's what
kick
makes
the
it fun. Is like
if we
randomly
can.
Toronto beats Piacenza. Like, how did that happen? Now that might save them from being relegated right there, which is crazy. Like you have one miracle match, and that might save your season. You have one stinker of a match against the team that you should beat, that might ruin your season. That's what it's all about in sports, right there.
It's crazy too how Milano has really. It almost seems like they're on a big bridge and the bridge is starting to fall and Milano's already jumped up on the side and be like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, we're
Because
good.
like early in the season, I thought that they did not look good. They just couldn't get it together, but they've looked really good of late. I think Thomas Jashki has looked really great of late as well. And I think that
Their
Milano
only
team is
problem is Poro's complete inability to set Jean Patry the ball. That's the only thing holding them back from maybe even making some noise in the playoffs. But with that, like if they stay in fifth, whoever ends up being in fourth is just going to mop the floor with them in that
right.
series.
And like right now it's Modena.
Oh
So
yeah, game over. That's
yeah.
3 matches to none, no
They're
problem.
they're 4 points behind Trentino, but have a game at hand, so that could be interesting. Kind of with only 5 matches left for them, but still, yeah, it's going to be interesting. So
Yep.
I think Milano's in a good spot. The reality is, it's going to be nice for any of these teams to make the playoffs, but it'll be a huge upset if any of the top four don't make it to the semifinals.
Agreed. That's when the real game begins. But making the playoffs is an achievement for sure. That's big for these clubs as they try to break through into that top four. That's not going to happen this year. I don't think anybody thinks that it will. But making the playoffs is a big deal. More importantly, not getting relegated is an extremely big deal. And there's one team that's going to get relegated who really doesn't necessarily deserve to be. It's just the year that we have with 2 teams getting relegated. Obviously, Ravenna deserves to be relegated, but there will be another team that goes down to A2 next year. And really, of all those teams there towards the bottom, none of them really deserve to get relegated. So it's going to be heartbreaking for one of those teams.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. One team is going to fall. Who are you picking right now to fall? Who's you picking to get relegated?
Man, it would have to depend on who they have left to play, and I'm going to scan through that really quickly and see if somebody has a harder schedule. I mean, Verona's schedule is kind of tough coming in. Toronto's schedule is pretty tough coming in. Vibo's schedule is moderate. No, actually, it's pretty hard. They play Perugia and Trentino. That's 2 L's, but then they play Padova and Piacenza. They're gonna have to win one of those at least. Like they could easily get relegated. Like Cisterna could easily get relegated. Cisterna. So here's the boost. Here are the following teams still get to play Ravenna one more time. Okay, Verona plays them once. Piacenza plays them once. Modena plays them once. Cisterna plays them once. And then Ravenna is off the last day of the year. Thank God. That's great. So that last day where there are 6 matches going on, none of them will include Ravenna. That's outstanding news. So even more drama on March 20th.
I mean, I'm looking at this and I think Verona has a good schedule. Like you said, they're playing Ravenna. They've got Ravenna, Piacenza, and Monza. Right, so you're not
all
playing
winnable, all
winnable. You're not playing any of the top of the teams at the top of the table there. I think Cisterna would be a team that I would be looking at to be like, hey, that's a little worrisome. But
they've got Ravenna though.
They do have Ravenna. They have another one against Trentino though, and another one against Modena. So they're probably going 1 and 2. They're definitely going to need that win against Ravenna to
it's so spicy.
To hold on. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like Cisterna is really, they just kind of got decimated with injuries this year, and Steven Mara has been just clawing them towards the finish sign. So
yeah, that'd be a big sigh of relief if they don't get relegated.
My question is, last year we had that playoff for relegation. Is that going to be happening this year from teams 9 through, or no? I guess it's just going to be a straight up relegation.
It's straight up. It's straight up. Yeah, 9 through 11, you're sitting at home, but you're happy you're still in the league. 12 and 13, you're down to A2. That's it.
All right. Well, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be some fun volleyball to watch. You can check that out. And Rob's sultry commentating over on Volleyball World TV.
Indeed. Yeah, I've got a couple good ones in the month of March. Who do I have on the 20th? I want to look that up again because those matches are going to be wild. Ooh, we certainly should move on to a little bit of Poland in the meantime. Ooh,
Yeah.
oh dang it, the 20th I have women's. That's too bad. But I've got Monza versus Perugia on Sunday the 13th. I think that's a super good match. I've got Trentina versus Vibo on March 2nd. That's a Wednesday. That'll be fun to just see Vibo get smoked. I'm looking forward to that. So, yeah, and join the Discord as well. Where we're talking about Italy just constantly. The matches are so good. It's getting fun to watch.
Yeah. Discord's growing all the time. We got some fun things happening over there. So if you're
Yeah.
not on the Discord already, like what are you doing?
What are you doing?
Jumping over to Poland now. What do you want to talk about here, Rob?
Just a couple like overview sort of things in this league because we haven't talked about Poland enough, in my opinion, this year because we haven't been able to watch the matches to nearly the same degree. So they've got Polish Cup coming up in like 2 weeks. The semis
it's like coming up now. Sorry, excuse me. It's getting late. It's tomorrow. They have the Polish Cup tomorrow. You've got JW.
Those are some like quarterfinal games that we already know who's going to win them.
Well, tomorrow. You got JW against Warsaw. Like I think that's going to be a fun game.
That's regular season, isn't it? Or no?
No. It's Cup for sure.
That's tight.
And then the other one is Zaxa against Nisa, Stal Nisa, which obviously
That's thanks for participating. But yeah, JW versus Warszaw's fun. Yeah, that's tomorrow. You're right.
So Zaxa plays the winner of Zaxa, Stal Nisa, I think plays
Skra, I believe, and then JW plays Varsovia.
Something like that. So I mean, no, we've got Polish Cup this weekend. Like
winner of Zaxa, Zaxa will play Gdansk, and then JW and Warszawa winner will play Varsovia.
I'm picking Warszawa on that one.
Oh no! I still think JW's. I still think JW is better than them, even with an unspeakably inferior opposite. I still think JW is better than him, but it will be fun to watch. I'm going to try and find a stream of that. Adonos will hopefully hook us up in the Discord tomorrow.
It's crazy that I don't know how they figured out like who the teams qualified for the semifinals, but like I mean, Varsovia is sitting in 6th, and Gdansk is sitting in 9th right now.
That is a weird tournament. I was looking into the format because they bring up some like second league teams to play in it.
Yeah.
The seeding's really weird, and I don't totally understand it.
We got no Skra, no Zarici, no Olston, no Katowice. Like,
it's
missing some of their teams.
But so the PlusLiga, I think the overarching storylines right now are Zax is the best team in the league, but you can see that they're tied in points at the top with JW because Zaxa had a COVID situation. They're 2 matches behind and they're still undefeated, so they haven't lost to anybody except that Super Cup final against JW. After that, it gets kind of tight. I think Skra. The reason where Skra is where they are is because of Mateusz Biniak. He's having an MVP caliber season as a middle, which is ridiculous. Zawiercie is good, and they had a fun little sequence there where Uros Kovacevic had to set for a couple games, and they won, which is hilarious. Olston is TJ DeFalco, Taylor Averill's team, and they've been a pleasant surprise even after losing Maisam Salehi to injury. Zhezhov or Rasovia is a classic Rasovia disappointing team where they have a great offseason and then they just underperform, which is the most classic Rasovia thing of all time.
I'm looking at the draw here for how they got to the semifinals. They beat Zarici last week, or no, they beat them earlier today actually on Tuesday. They beat Zarici 3-1 today, and in the last round in January they beat Skra. So Rasovia with actually 2 like decent wins here to get to the semifinals of the Polish Cup.
Yeah, those are some good wins. So yeah, that it's tighter in Poland, like from spots 3 through even like 10. It's tighter there than Italy is for sure. Because in Italy you have a clear top 4 and then it drops off. In Poland, you really just have a top 1, to be honest. Like even JW has 3 losses on the year. Like they can lose to any of those teams right below them on a given day, especially without Boye in the mix. So Poland's super competitive, and yeah, there's. Stal Nisa is looking like they're going to get relegated. I think that's where Mitch Stahl is right now, which is a shame.
Yeah.
But like Radom's not great, but they're going to survive. Like Suwalki's where Josh Twinninga was. I think he's somewhere different now. Maybe I don't
No, I think
remember.
he's still there. I think
Okay.
he's still at Slovakia.
All right. So there's a lot of Americans in the PlusLiga. There's a decent number of Canadians too, right?
No, there's only Jay Blake now in Warsaw.
Just that's it. Wow.
Yeah. No Canadians in it, in not that many. I know there's another Canadian in second division. Brandon Coppers is playing in the second division. I think,
Coopers.
yeah, but I'm pretty sure he's of Polish descent, so I'm wondering if he's almost been like
Okay.
naturalized in a way to be able to play there. But I'm not sure. That's me
Projecting. That's fine.
projecting or guessing.
Yeah, Poland's
Yeah,
cool, and it's a great league. If you want to watch the league, join the Discord. We'll try and help you out with some streams. It's not as easily accessible because it's not like on the volleyballworld.tv thing. You sometimes have to VPN, whatever it is. But the Polish league is dope, and there's more good teams that can beat one another than there are in maybe any other league in the world. It's like
yeah.
the most competitive in the middle, even though Zox is the best team in the league. Like 2 through 10 are all just like beating up on each other every weekend, and that's pretty cool.
I really think that's what you get from the leagues like Russia and Poland, where there's not a huge, like the foreign limit isn't that high, where it's
Right.
just down to like two or three, and maybe the budgets aren't as big because it's truly just the cream of the crop of best of Polish volleyball with like a
Right.
few foreigners sprinkled in here. Whereas like Italy is massively controlled by foreigners, right? There's a lot of rosters where there's a limited amount of Italians, and it's just those guys. Like you've got the role players, and then you've got the
The
few guys that they need
superstars.
to be on the court, and
Yeah.
everyone else is a foreigner. Yeah, I think it's ultimately to the benefit, and it must be exciting if you're a Polish fan in Poland to have all these teams so close, right?
Yeah, I wish that volleyballworld.tv, and maybe this will happen as they expand that platform. Now, this is me assuming that the FIVB may do something positive, which I would be stupid to assume, but it would,
Well, once again, Volleyball World's a different entity than the
right,
FIVB.
Yeah, Volleyball World. I would like for them
Got to
to
make that distinction.
expand the options that you have for domestic leagues on volleyballworld.tv. We talked about the Turkish Women's League a couple weeks ago. Like if Egonu moves there, which it seems like she will, it would be foolish for Volleyball World not to try and do whatever they can to pick up streaming rights to Turkish women next year. I would like to see them do the same for Polish men because in Poland they do such a good job producing and covering the league of every team, pregame shows, halftime shows, the whole thing. They cover it like an actual real professional sport all the time. And the only issue is that you can only really get all that if you are in Poland or if you can VPN to Poland. But if they expanded that level of coverage around the world, it might boost the PlusLiga's standing in international volleyball. That might give them a lot more of the capital that their teams need to be, competitive in like Champions League and stuff like that. Because the only thing holding the PlusLiga back from being the best league in the world is that there's just not that much money in Poland. There's more in Italy. So if Volleyball World were to pick up streaming rights to that, it might be a huge win-win for both sides. And I would definitely like to follow Poland more.
Yeah. I mean, I think like in a situation like Poland where I'm sure their TV deals and streaming deals within the country are probably really high. Fine, just geo-block Poland. Let the rest of the world watch it.
Exactly.
Let's go get the V League. Let's go get, let's. I'd love to just be able to go through and have a space to watch all of these matches, right? And if Volleyball World
that's
doesn't like,
got to be the vision for Volleyball World TV. It has
to be.
Has
yeah.
to be.
It's got to be, right. It's got to be something where it's just like, let's get all of this under, especially since now it's like a completely different entity, right? Like Volleyball World technically has no relation, like it's completely different from the FIVB. If it's its own standalone business. So let's see how far this is gonna take it, right? But I'd love to see that, where if you're just gonna have a collection of all of the different leagues under one streaming service, maybe they're kind of look into the future and want to add some content. Hey guys, how's it going? We got two guys here who are doing a not bad job. Man, I would love that, right? Like one platform, you could just be like in bed at night being like, do I want to watch V League? Yeah, I do. Do I want to watch Korean V League? Yeah, I absolutely do. Do I want to check out Jeff Manzel in Indonesia? Sure, why not? Right?
That's reaching down there pretty far. But yeah.
Prime volleyball league in India, right? Like let's get this together, guys. Let's have some vision. Come
Well,
on.
no, I'll give him several years to figure it out because Volleyball World TV is a 1-year-old platform at most, so that it's in its infancy. I would like to think that they have that vision for it, but the track record has not given me a lot of reason for optimism.
No, you're not wrong. Is that about it for this
I
week?
think it's
Do
about
we have
it.
anything else?
Do a little VLA recap from this weekend.
Oh
which was
shoot, yeah. Sorry, I forgot about
very
that. How was
weird weekend.
yeah, that
Very
was
weird. Very weird. So it was fun. So I'm in Arizona right now. I'm not in my
oh,
usual.
whoa. You played this weekend.
I did. I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there.
Sorry. I stole the punchline of your story there,
Yeah,
but
I'm gonna get there. Yeah,
remembered.
I played. I played 2 VLA matches out of nowhere. So that was wild. I'll get to that in a second. So yeah, I'm in Arizona. VLA schedule's been packed. I was in Connecticut a week ago. I flew to Arizona. Fortunately, my parents live here during the winter, so I'm here for the whole week. It's incredible. And we had what should have been an outstanding event this weekend with the West Division. So Phoenix Ascension hosting. They're good, not great, but they're very, very competitive all the time. You have Sport Connects from San Francisco, who I think is excellent. And then you have the Rising Tide from Southern California, who is one of the best teams in the league. And we were playing at 2 great venues. We were playing literally at the Arizona Cardinals football stadium, the American Football Stadium, on Friday night, which is an unbelievable place to play volleyball. It was super cool. Now, the problem was that the Rising Tide out of SoCal, like their entire team of all like SoCal guys who are very, very good, they were all coaching juniors this past weekend, so they were totally unable to field a team. They didn't send a single one of their usual players. And now last year, so this is the 3rd year of the VLA, right? We're growing it. The tier 1 has grown. The schedule has grown. The format is super clear. Last year, it wasn't the case. COVID was still a very big deal. It was restricting a lot of things. So there were times when we, like, the league would step in and help teams that were struggling to field players or whatever. This year, my stance and like the league stance from the very beginning is like, if you as a team don't have it together with your rosters and can't field teams, then you're just going to lose, and that's on you. So the Rising Tide had that problem this past weekend, and they couldn't field a team. And so Vince, my co-host around the VLA who runs the Ascension team in Phoenix here, he put together some like totally random group of like C-tier Arizona players. And they suited up as the Rising Tide this past weekend because the actual Rising Tide didn't send a single one of their players. It was not a good product. I was not very happy with the product. The 2 Ascension versus Sport Connects matches were very good, but every other one of the matches that involved the Rising Tide was just not really worth watching. It wasn't the product we wanted to put out, and obviously they went 0-4. So the standings there are interesting. But I was upset about that. However, because those matches were not good, they were not worth broadcasting. They weren't worth me commentating. And the internet in this gym on Saturday was truly the worst that I've ever seen of all time. And it was actually so bad that we knew that we weren't even going to try to stream it. We had to just record them and upload them later, which we did. So I actually ended up suiting up and playing for the Rising Tide. And if they're in a position where they have to pull the commentator like out of the booth and onto the floor and have me set for an entire match, and I am not a setter, that kind of tells you where we're at. But I had a blast. I've always wanted to like suit up and play a match or two, so got my chance. It was really fun. It was not the best product the league has ever seen, but I definitely had a good time suiting up and playing out there. So if you want to go watch the matches for whatever reason, you can.
I did like that one clip that you put up, and I feel like I could identify with it. Something along the lines of, how could I make such a good shot look so unathletic?
Yeah, so that was from last night. Yeah, I went to Ascension's practice last night, and it was actually they run a hard, like a difficult, tough, like demanding practice, which is awesome. And it was super late in the practice. We were all dying, and I had this it was a good like wrist away shot down the line on the right, but it looked incredibly slow and unathletic, and I couldn't.
You're so far outside of your shoulder to go down that
I
line. You
do
got to
that all
square up a little
do that
bit.
all the time. That's my shot.
Is your cross court shot like straight out of bounds? Like
My,
what are you
my
doing out
cross
there?
court shot doesn't exist. That's why I'm the commentator and not actually a
Hey,
VLA player. But yeah,
you and
I
me
had a
both,
good
bro.
time playing, but it was not exactly what the VLA wants to see. So we're not perfect, but the league's dope. And 2 weeks, Chicago, big tournament with like 14 teams. Ruckus coming to play against Icemen, probably the best two teams in like tier 1, tier 2 combined. So that'll be sick. That will be much better volleyball, and I certainly will not be suiting up in that tournament.
No. Okay, thank God. We'll be happy to have you back on the mic for that one for sure.
So yeah, that's about it for VLA. Yeah, I'm in Arizona this week. I'll be back,
Jealous.
and yeah, it's awesome here. I'll be back in Chicago next week. We'll jump back into the show at our normal time. So thanks for watching. Little late night volley talk action.
Yeah, I'm like here falling asleep. I'm getting some sleepy Everett comments in the chat. Um, Ronnie just told me to go to sleep, which is ironic because he's in Spain, so
Yeah,
it's
Ronnie, isn't it like
like
4 in the morning, bro? What are you
it's
doing?
yeah, he watched from 9, yeah, it almost 5 a.m. for him. So, um, what a legend.
Love him.
What an absolute legend. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the 9 by 9. You can check us out on YouTube. If you're catching this on the audio podcast, also make sure to come check us out on the Discord. The show link is in the show notes here for YouTube. And Rob, anything you had to say for the lovely people of the volleyball world before we sign off here?
That's about it, people. We'll see you next Tuesday. Peace.
Peace.